Thank you for inviting me. 34,000 breasts, or slightly less than that. So very, very, very honored to be invited to speak here today. This organization is essentially at the core of what I believe and what I work on every day at the office. I see older kids and teenagers and all of that, but in that newborn period, this fourth trimester is just such a critical time to give family support. So to be able to speak today, although I just want to give Dr. Bieber a hard time for asking me to talk about something that I have never spoken in public about. Now at the well checks, if I'm your doctor, we talk about this at every visit, right? But I have never given a talk on sleep because I'm not a sleep expert, okay? But this is what Jenny wants me to talk about. She knows me very well. We've been friends a long time and professional, associates for a long time. So if this is what the community wants to hear about and you want to hear about it from my perspective, then that's what I'm going to do. Little worried it's being taped. Little worried. I am a little off color. This is a PG-13. Okay. No one really can I'm just checking. There are just a few curse words, just a few. It wouldn't be a talk about sleep without that, right? Okay, so the goals for the talk. So I want, by the end, I'm kind of a nerdy teacher. Dr. Votz, I'm a little bit of a nerdy teacher. And so I like to think about, at the end of this talk, I want you to be able to look at this slide and agree that we met these goals, okay? This is the hour before lunch. I got to really bring it, right? Because you're going to fake some reason. Pinch your kid to go outside and eat a candy bar early and get out. Okay, so we're going to recognize your own cultural and environmental expectations for infant and child sleep. So this is not just about babies. It's definitely, I'm trying to carry it a little bit further into child sleep. To understand when people say that babies need to self-soothe or self-regulation, what is the definition of that? And do infants and children have the capacity to do that when we throw that word around? And then right in the middle, I have like 3 somewhat serious slides. They're like 3 medically slides about safe infant sleep, okay? Very briefly, because this is not a breastfeeding talk at all. This is really about sleep, no matter how you feed your baby or your kid. But I do want people to visualize breast storage capacity when you talk about sleep or when you get advice from friends or on the internet about sleep. Your first question should be, show me your boobs. No, it shouldn't. No, it shouldn't. Because you can't really see storage capacity, but your Facebook avatar should say what your breast storage capacity is before you give anybody sleep advice with your unicorn breasts and your unicorn baby. That's what I really wanted to name the talk, and Dr. Bieber would not let me. But I wanted it to be called A Bedtime Story of Unicorn Breasts and Unicorn Babies. Okay, but instead, this is more serious. This is good. But then it takes like 40 seconds and I'm unhinged. So, And then the purpose is I want you to leave here with concrete ways to build a sleep team without hiring a whole bunch of people. That's not what I mean by that. But, who is on your sleep team and what kind of philosophy and what kind of feelings, what kind of words can we all use to help each other survive is kind of the best way to put it. Okay, and then all of these, I have like scattered memes through here just to kind of make you laugh, because this stuff is heavy. This is serious, like sleep and the lack of sleep. If you wanted to take one unifying theme at almost all of these tables and at almost all of the talks, lack of sleep or chasing a return to normal sleep is at the root of many of them. So if you don't deal with that, if you tell someone to reach their breastfeeding goals without talking about sleep, you're missing the elephant in the room, right? And I know this very well. So just so that you know, I don't have any financial gain from any company or product. I don't even take pins. There's like a sign on the door. I don't talk to drug reps. I don't talk to any kind of reps. I have agave pins. That's it. I've been a pediatrician for 17 years, and I've been doing breastfeeding medicine for 9 years. I'm definitely not a sleep expert, and I think that's good. I'm going to call them all out. There's no such thing, okay? So you are the sleep expert for your baby, okay? But I do have a lot of experience, I would say, in real life with my own kids and then in 17 years in practice. I know exactly what you're about to say. I try not to interrupt because I can already feel it. Like, at the 4-month well check, I could just write it out ahead of time. I know. I've seen a million of you. I get it. And the people keep coming back, so I must be saying something sort of okay, right? I support a family's feeding goals. So what that means is that I want everyone to be able to breastfeed for a minimum of a year. I mean, that's what I want. Medically and personally and for advocacy, that's what I want. But whatever a family's feeding goals are what my feeding goals are, okay? So nobody has to make me happy by breastfeeding, and you don't have to promise to breastfeed for infinity to get in my office. Like, I support the feeding goals that the family has, and those change over time. Those morph and change. And my kids are now 10 and 8. The reason that my talk was switched, I'm so grateful to the gynecologist that traded with me at the very last second. I apologize for that. But my daughter is in a cheerleading competition. She only has 4 in a year. And I counted up, this is her 42nd trimester. And I don't even want to tell you what kind of tears would roll for me not coming to one of these competitions today, okay? And our family, so I've been divorced for 2 years, and so I don't like saying ex. I hate that word, because we cooperate, and I have a very kind husband. I only have one husband, even though he is an ex, So that ex word, can we make a better word? I don't like that. I love co-parent, but it almost implies like we're still in the same house, just co-parenting, but we're really not. We're about 3 miles apart. But he's awesome, and he's got the kids right now at the cheer. And he was a great support in infancy for me, so I am clouded by that a little bit. I don't have any family in town, but I did have a very supportive husband. And I'm going to try and use the word partner instead of husband for the most of the talk. And also remembering that sleep affects both people. And no matter who the person is doing the feeding and who's the one making the milk or shaking the milk up or preparing the milk. So here's another, I like this one, parenthood, cramming your entire adult life into 2 hours after your kids go to bed. Definitely not an infant, because it would be about 35 minutes, right? Who is a sleep expert? I don't think anyone is. It disturbs me. You have to remember that expert comes from a cultural belief system of what normal is and what those expectations are. And if you want medical norms, okay, if you want a medical norm, I forgot this pointer, then you go see a pulmonologist, and they'll look at your alpha sleep waves, and they'll look at whether you need to have your tonsils out or whether you need CPAP or whatever. That's a medical expert on sleep. Okay, everyone else is pulling from their own personal belief system of what normal infant sleep is. I mean, there's certainly data on lack of sleep and, all kinds of childhood drama and trauma from lack of sleep. And that's what drives parents nuts, is that they read that and they're trying to force their kid to get good sleep because they want what's best for them. Right? But all that data collection is so multifactorial. You have to look at, just because lack of sleep is connected to obesity, it doesn't mean that there's a direct correlation, that if your kid doesn't nap well, they're going to be obese. There are a lot of other factors that go along with obesity. So these headline grabbers scare parents. If I hear the word toxic stress one more time. Okay, no, toxic stress is bad, but we've got to de-escalate the fear and drama around sleep in infancy and childhood. Like, we got to tone it down. Gucci Mane, let's tone it down, okay? It's too much, because every day when the kid doesn't nap well, you've just like, oh, they're not going to college, and what have I done? I might as well let's just feed them hot fries and, Diet Mountain Dew. Well, it's over. So people who are for hire, people you can hire, I'm not throwing them under the bus. They have a role to play if you believe in the same cultural expectations that they do, okay? And good for you, go for it, pay them to do it, okay? There's lots of those different type of people. But a lot of it is experiential, and it's what works for them. But it's also in the context of their belief system, okay? It does not work well if you're not in the same belief system. And then if your mother-in-law is your sleep expert, I have no advice. I have zero advice. You either need to, there's some strategies. I mean, you can either lie and nod, or you can avoid, or you can fight. I mean, there are strategies, but good luck. That's not a talk But I love this. It was a PhD. I can't remember who it was who said the only sleep expert of your baby is you. I love that. I love that. Even me at the office visit, and I think I know it all, and I think I've heard this before. It's still your baby in your house. Parenting expert. Children will model the behavior that they see. False. They have seen me sleep. They do not sleep. I love that. Other moms, my kids go to bed without any kind of fuss. Me, that's great. Tonight I Googled tranquilizer darts for home use. My daughter is 10, and she was flipping through the slides, and I realized, like, oops, ooh, wow, all right, didn't think about you seeing that one. And she was like, what does that mean? And so I described what I would have done to her if I could have, right at the door. And she's like, first she was upset, and then she threw her head back and kind of laughed, All right, so just some basic numbers. Sleep is pretty crappy no matter what age kid you have. I think that's so important to remember. Most people are lying when they say that their kids sleep well or have slept well. That might mean yesterday. It's like asking a teenager if they're sexually active. Like, no, not right now. No. What do you mean, yesterday? This morning? No. So, people have selective memories. If you ask me about the details I remember big global things about my daughter's, disruptive sleep. I actually kept a journal. I should have brought it. It is so disturbing, though. I kept a journal of trying to figure out her naps and her patterns, and I put it in her baby book. I'm kind of glad I did. It is so messed up. And the language I use about myself, oh my gosh, the bad, the good, these big, heavy words, bad nap, good day, good kid. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I look at it, and it's me. I wrote it, and I am just so sad that that's who I was. Like, I wish I could help my little self, back then. I'm glad I saved it, too, because it shows me, I'm just a regular mom like everybody else, and I've been through the ringer. And also, even for my daughter Caroline, when she's pregnant or I would love for her to read this just to see how disordered your brain can get when you yourself are sleep deprived. But this is actual data. So I tried to find the newest articles that I could that had some percentage in it. So only 30% of 6-month-olds, they do not have a 6-hour block of sleep. I'm like, well, wait, does that mean 70% do? But they really just meant it wasn't like a continuous thing, birth to 6 months. It means at some point in the last 30 days, did your 6-month-old. I still think they're wishful thinking when they remember. They're like, oh, yeah, I think there was that one time that they did. So our expectations of what sleeping through the night means, usually for studies, it's 5 hours. Usually for published studies, 5 hours is sleeping through the night. What we want is, 8 to 10 hours. But we as adults don't even get the time at night that we should get. And sometimes you're projecting your own fears onto your kid of the sleep disorders that you have, and you don't want the same thing for your child, which I get, but it's not all doom and gloom. This is what the AEP says that kids need. This gets quoted to me all the time. I can't even tell you how many times I get this back at me, and it's the chief complaint for the visit, lack of sleep. I'm like, wait, who? You? Well, it's all connected, obviously, but, he should be sleeping 12 hours. I found it in a table. I know he's not sleeping 12 hours. I've watched him. He's not. And people aren't noticing the little cat naps that they're taking at the breast, at the bottle, the naps in the car seat. Let me tell you, a human being's brain, if it really does need to sleep, is going to. People fall asleep driving at the wheel. I mean, that's part of that. Like your body, if it's about to make your heart stop or you have a heart attack or brain injury, it's going to go to sleep. So you don't need to worry about whether your child's smooth muscle cells are contracting in their heart. Okay, like none of that. Even if you wanted to worry about it, you really can't. So if a kid needs to sleep, they will. And they're getting little power crunch, these little fake junk sleep naps all the time. Anyone who's here today has ruined all of their kids' naps. And I'm glad you're here. I'd rather you be here than your kid have perfect naps. Only the first kid gets perfect naps anyway. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Anyone here who is my patient has heard me say, pretend. I don't know how to tell you to do this. Pretend this is your third kid. Pretend. Okay? The parent of a third kid is so different than the first because the first and second have to go to school. They have baseball. They have haircuts. They have stuff. You can't sit at home. You can pay someone, you can. But if it's you, you're going to drag them out of the house because you physically have to. So for your firstborn, you should maybe overschedule yourself. Like, I have to go to Target today. Just make yourself leave the house. Because what I see are people who tell me how great the naps are, but they're not leaving the house. You know, your vitamin D level is -12. And, you know, it's just not healthy. It's not healthy. The kid can't have perfect naps and everybody else is just a disaster. Okay. This one is kind of funny. If you look at, see, I told you there was cussing. So look at the night sleep at 1 to 3. Not much due to all the damn feeding. Just FYI, formula-fed babies have just as bad a sleep as breastfed babies. So that was studied in a 12-week sleep log, exclusive formula and exclusive breast. And the moms had to keep track of how many minutes they slept and that the baby slept. And you would think, oh, well, when it's all in a bottle, someone else can do it. They don't. I mean, sure they can, but no one else does. And the mom gets up anyway because you can hear them because you're programmed to get up anyway, okay? So sleep is horrible no matter how you feed your kid. And don't let anybody tell you that you're going to stuff them silly before bed and they're going to sleep longer. They're not. They're not. So they did weighted feeds. Moms had scales. They did weighted breastfeeds. And then they looked at duration of sleep afterwards. Does volume of milk correlate with duration of sleep? No. 5 milliliters and sleeps 6 hours, 4 ounces, right, and sleeps 30 minutes. So you cannot stuff them silly to make them sleep longer or put rice cereal in there or whatever. None of it works. And it all has other consequences. So the cultural layers of sleep, you know, this we can't get into in detail, but, you know, the American concept, it really is American, or like pilgrimage. I mean, maybe it's like England. Maybe it's them. It's the people who came over on the Mayflower, basically, who said, bootstraps. We're going to build this country. We're going to take it over from people that are here. We're going to plow and do our thing. There's this like, kid, you were in the womb for 9 months, but the rent is due. You're out. You need to do this on your own. You need to sleep on your own. You need to just get with the program. We're all doing our own thing. I'm not going to live my life around you. That's very American to think that a kid doesn't need the mom after they're out of the womb, or that they shouldn't need the parents. That is such a bizarre concept, okay? But that is our concept. And I can't tell you how many times I hear about holding causing spoiling. I mean, at like the 2-month checkup, like my heart just breaks. You know, it's usually generational. It's not usually the people of the current reproductive age. It's usually a generation or two above that are continuing to pass that down, that you're spoiling them by holding them. And then when you see all these devices sold in stores, you think you need them, okay, right? And then I don't know why the bedroom is where sexual intimacy has gotten stuck. I mean, you all do yoga. There's a lot of furniture in your house. There's a lot of rooms with doors. It's very limiting, a bed. The older you get, just the less you want to move around. You know, you just need, anyway. So the fact that the bedroom is where sleep is and where intimacy is, very often in a relationship, these things get all mixed up in a bad way, meaning that one partner wants the intimacy back. And to get the intimacy back, they just want the kid out of the bed. Instead of going, why don't we leave the kid in the bed and let's go in the guest bedroom or the swing set. What is this, Arizona? Go outside. Unless your neighbor has a camera. They'll probably bring you pie the next week. You won't know why. Okay, so, and then this toxic stress, I really don't mean to devalue it, but it gets misused. It gets misused about just general crying, for heaven's sakes. Like, I want you to go on YouTube and watch tantrum videos of toddlers getting Cheetos taken away and their iPads taken away. Okay, you have to have crying in perspective. What is normal crying? What is toxic stress? Toxic stress from, living in a meth house and you never hold your baby and the baby gets passed around to a whole bunch of strangers and is rarely fed or is fed on a completely irregular schedule. There's different smells. Day and night are all mixed up. That's toxic stress, okay? But a baby crying for 4 to 5 minutes while they settle, you have to look at the difference between those things, okay? So there's if you're trying to keep your kid from ever crying, you will create a teacup kid who will not survive in life. You will. I mean, that is the definition. I agree, they need self-regulation when they're older. I mean, but teaching them that, you teach them that through attachment early on, right? That's how you teach it. And then I really hate the polarity. And I hate this attachment parenting versus sleep training thing. I really, really hate that. I hate that there are mom wars and camps, tribes. As humans, we all love to affiliate with some sort of team. It's like part of our anthropology. And so people like to be in a camp, And that, of course, that just makes everything so complicated. Even feeding. Oh, I'm an inclusive feeder. Oh, I'm an exclusive pumper. I'm a breast milk feeder. I'm a donor milk. Like we all just feed our kid the best way we can, right? There's not camps. We don't need camps. The thing is, you get proud. You get proud of your camp, and then you kind of want to be validated by other people who believe the same thing as you, and that's how these wars kind of get generated. I like this one. This is for older kids. Starting a petition to make getting your kids out of your kid's bed after fall asleep an Olympic sport. So we talked about this, though. What birth order? The way that I give sleep advice, I'm not bringing it up. Well, I kind of do. I just have this little vague thing. Because if it's a real problem, they bring it up to me. When I'm washing my hands, I'll say, is everything okay with sleeping and pooping? They would have already told me probably if it was an urgent thing. And so they say yes. I don't ask any more questions. Is everything okay with sleep? It doesn't matter what you do in your house if it's working in your family. I do not say, you need to have this many hours of sleep. Well, your baby needs to sleep through the night. There aren't sleep markers for me at all. I just need to know that the family unit is functioning, right? So it has to do with how many kids are in the house, how close their rooms are together, if you have a first floor, second floor. I mean, truly, this is what sleep is about. Because some of the things you can do in an apartment versus a 3-story house are different. Whether you can have your 3-year-old woken up by even a tiny bit of crying. I had to write a letter. More than once I've written a letter for an apartment landlord where, just to say that a little bit of crying here and there is okay, and that this mom cannot keep the child perfectly quiet all night long, right? I mean, that's a terrifying feeling that you're going to get kicked out of your apartment if your kid cries and people complain. The shift work, how much time do you spend with your kid during the day, whether it's paid work or unpaid work, has a lot to do with whether the kids are using nighttime to connect with you. And let's not pretend that you can have it all. Let's not pretend. I'm missing out. I miss out on things all the time. You cannot have it all, right? If you're going to be at paid work, because everyone works, but if you're going to be at paid work outside the house and you're not with your kid, you're missing out. We all are. We all make sacrifices and trades of what works for our family at that time. And the kids sometimes don't like it, and they need makeup time. So many of my visits with older working out toddler sleep behavior, I'm acting like a sleep expert right now. I am not. I'm still saying I'm not a sleep expert. But what I do at the office visits is try to find out what that toddler is craving. What is going on here? This is clearly attention-seeking behavior, or this is clearly acting out, or whatever. Where is this coming from? Where is there time that we could reallocate before bedtime to get some contact with you? Where's there wasted time? Why are we cooking these fancy meals and washing dishes? Like, where can we work in more contact time? And then maybe you just need to lay on the floor with your 3-year-old and sleep with him or her for a year or two. Like, is that so bad? That's okay too. That's okay too. It just has to be okay with everybody in the family, right? Everyone has to be on board. I love all my children the same, except for the one that sleeps. That's my favorite. This got Caroline, 20 minutes. Oh my God. This got Caroline big time. She's like, is George your favorite? Speaking of transference. Okay, we can get into this in detail. I just want to remind you that if you watch tantrums when they're 3, because you know how you get rid of tantrums is ignoring them, and you know what ignoring means? It means letting them scream for a really long time in public, okay? So I'm not a fan. Cried out, it has a horrible tone to me. I hate that word. I hate that phrase. And I really dislike trying to make a baby learn how to fall asleep on their own. But I'm I'm going to call it just normal, manipulative, smart behavior of toddlers, that you do have to let them scream. Otherwise, they're going to have a real hard time with kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, college, marriage, divorce, second marriage, the whole thing, okay? Don't make a teacup kid just because you're trying to be an attached parent, right? They're different things. Okay. This is how you teach. This is what self-regulation is. I want you to pretend like we're talking to a 6-month-old right now. My daughter threw her head back on this. Ha, ha, ha. So to teach to be self-regulated, to be able to self-soothe, you have to be, as the person, not the external force, parent, but as the child, able to recognize these things. Can a 6-month-old? Does the 6-month-old know what the standards are for normal sleep? Does a 6-month-old have the motivation to meet those standards? Does a 6-month-old know how to, think about situations and thoughts that precede? What happens right before they decide to scream for you to come in there? And do they have the willpower? I can't even say it. Do they have the willpower or the internal strength to control their urges? This is absurd, right? So quit saying self-soothe. Self-soothe is self-regulation, okay? I mean, yes, fingers, pacifiers, a blankie, yes. But to say that by leaving them alone for hours on end, they're going to somehow work through the steps of self-regulation by not walking in there and seeing them is ridiculous. Okay, so if you really talk, psychologists really will come down super hard on big time cried out. They will come down hard and say what you're creating is an anxious child who doesn't feel secure because they can't go through these processes. There's still ways to help a child connect sleep with certain associations, right? There are still ways to get sleep to be connected to a rhythm, to a routine. Every human being wakes up every hour and a half to 2 hours and has partial awakenings. Do we have to respond with the full shebang every 1.5 to 2 hours? No, right? And so it's a matter of being intuitive and feeling whether it's a partial awakening or a full awakening, okay? And the vocabulary around this is also heavy that it's hard for me to even talk. It's hard for me to talk about it because you feel judged when I say those heavy things. But we have to just be honest about what self-regulation is. Maybe 6, 7 years old, for sure. I mean, when you make sticker charts, when you have school grades of red, yellow, green, absolutely. And do you just make them into a little prince or princess for the 5 years before that where they get everything they want? No. So there's some in between here that's going to make sense for families. These are older kids. This is what makes me laugh. I love all these sleep books where the parents are like, their kids slept 12 hours through the night. Do you think that if you have an infant who sleeps well, you're going to have a 3-year-old who sleeps well? Do you think those things correlate? They do not. I'd rather cash it in the school age. Honestly, let's just suffer when they're little. So nobody super sleeps well. I really dislike this. I dislike the permanency of all these sleep books and sleep experts, of this lifelong damage, and that there's only one way to do it right. And your 10-year-old is going to be a bad sleeper if you don't do it right when they're 4 months old. I hate that. It's a bunch of BS. It ain't true. Your family situation and circumstances change. The divorce, how that affects your kids, even if they were sleeping great. You think that, because I did the perfect sleep routine when they were 4 months old and they're 8 and 6 and they go through divorce, that it's not going to affect their sleep? Your life changes. The hours that you work change. You move houses. You gain new siblings. The life of that kid changes constantly, just as your family changes. So you all have to adapt. This one's sweet. You know how you have these conflicted feelings of and when someone tells me that they really want to stop breastfeeding because of the night feeds, I'm always like, well, let's keep the breastfeeding and we can get rid of we can stop the night feeds. There's a way to do that, but I don't really want to throw the breastfeeding out. We can separate these things out and you can still have this other piece. There are ways to do it. And then sleep as a scapegoat. This is really related to your communication with your partner. What is it when you're discordant about how you want to approach sleep problems? What's the real thing you're talking about? Are you really talking about intimacy? Does your partner want your breasts back? Do they think that they're off limits? Maybe they are, and that's okay. Some people are touched out or whatever. But like, what's the real issue? Is it really just the sleep? Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's an intentional sabotage of feeding goals because they're not on board with the feeding goals. I see that a lot where they can't directly say, I'm sick of not being able to feed the kid. I want to feed the kid myself sometimes. How come you get all the feeds? And then so instead, they come at it in this weird place, and it comes out through sleep. This one's awesome. I had to cough, but my kids were sleeping, so I literally just choked on my own saliva because I would rather die than accidentally wake them up. I tucked my kid into bed, said, good night, see you in the morning. And then we laughed and saw each other 17 more times. Okay, let's be fast. Safe infant sleep. James McKenna is a PhD. He's a sleep anthropologist. I mean, American beds are just death traps, okay? And anything that's sold as a sleep device will get recalled after enough babies die. It just takes 20. I forget how many they wait until a certain number of babies have died, and then they recall it. Anything that's sold that sounds too good to be true is. And I've been in practice long enough to watch all of them get recalled, where I go, that's going to get recalled. That's going to kill babies. Just watch. Okay, so, you know, they have those cardboard boxes. That's what I came in 1973. I'm old, and my parents had just moved into their house, and they took a drawer out. They took a dresser drawer out and put it on the floor. Maybe there was a blanket. I mean, they weren't poor or anything. It was just they weren't moved in and stuff, you know, and they were young, 23. And so, that's where I was. I mean, my mom nursed me, so I'm sure I was in the bed with her some too, but, that was the place they put me. And actually, it is pretty darn safe. You can make a splinter, but you're not going to suffocate on a splinter. So we want a hard, flat surface in the room with the parents, nothing overlaying them. Tobacco during pregnancy or secondhand is so dangerous for having a baby in the bed with you. I don't care if you're breast or formula feeding. Opiates and sedatives, you can't have sleep aids or anything that affects your awareness. Even Percocet with C-sections, I want you to take it. Someone else has to be in charge of making sure that you don't fall asleep during that feeding. Okay, nothing wrong with taking the opiates that you're given after a C-section. Pets and siblings can't be in the bed. The temperature of the house needs to be 68 to 72. When you have a kid in the summer, is your fault. Is your fault. I always look at whoever is the partner. I don't know. I just look at the other person because I got to blame them for something. I'm like, did you not do the math? Like you were going to have peak SIDS baby in the summer. Sorry, I don't know. $900 bill. That's what, And then let's not talk about vaccine. I don't want to get into any kind of vaccine debate, but I believe in science. Breastfeeding protects against SIDS. There's no way around it, and so does vaccination, okay? So when you're trying to stack the cards to lower your kid's SIDS risk, that's one of the things that is stacked towards less SIDS, is to have your child vaccinated on schedule. Ceiling fan is good. I don't know why. That seems voodoo-y, but it's real. It's in like the SIDS literature. Either the clicking, or you know how the babies look at the fan? There's maybe a fourth dimension, and like the god of the fourth dimension talks to babies through ceiling fans. I don't know, but this is for real. I'm being serious. Ceiling fans, run it. The air moving, it's either the air moving or the clicking. I don't know. But and pacifiers, I don't have pacifiers up there. So pacifiers after a month of age for breastfeeding, you just try not to mess up milk supply and all of that stuff. But basically, you don't need a pacifier if you're nursing and you're nursing all night long because you're suckling. It's the suckling that helps you remember to breathe. James McKenna's stuff is amazing. You need to read his stuff. And you need to be honest about your bed space. Very few people actually match his bed space, who claim to have read a lot and researched a lot. So if you really you take the baby's crib mattress out, and put it on the floor in your bedroom, as long as you don't have scorpions, and you sleep on your baby's crib down there with them on the floor, free on 4 sides. 4. Okay? So I want you to look at his checklist if you're going to do it. The safest place is in a sidecar that's flush with the adult bed. That's the safest place. James McKenna, he's a PhD sleep anthropologist. He's at Notre Dame. He has a FAQ and a checklist. I mean, there's always risk involved when your kid's in your bed. There is. But you have to look at the odds. It's like insanely low when you don't smoke and you're nursing and you have vaccinated. Okay, and then we certainly can't get into this, but I get a whole lot of questions about sleep that are really related to loud babies at night, that are really related to gas and reflux, and being convinced that if they fix the gas and reflux, the sleep is better. Reflux protects against SIDS, right? It makes them noisy and wet, and it's how they remember to breathe. That milk comes up constantly. There's a reason 80% of babies reflux. Don't try and stop it. It's loud. It's a nightmare. You're never going to sleep again. Your amygdala, your brain hears them. Okay, you wake up when there's silence. SIDS is silence. SIDS is not choking. Right? Choking babies, that's not what SIDS is. Okay? Reflux doesn't kill babies, keeps them alive. Milk in the nose is good. All these babies had less intraventricular hemorrhage in the NICU when they shot breast milk up their nose. Reflux, # team reflux, let's go. And then if you remember that it's an open paint can, that's my favorite analogy, is that any baby with an open lower esophageal sphincter who has reflux is like carrying an open paint can. And if you tilt them, milk comes out. Oh gosh, 10 minutes. And please don't take Zantac or any acid blockers without a really good reason. Really good reason. Really good. Like you've had surgery, like your baby's had surgery on their esophagus or their airway, okay? Causes food allergies. This is not like hysteria, okay? Go Google it, please. Who says that? What doctor says Google it? But I want you to, okay? These are journals owned by pharmaceutical companies. So if they publish it, it's for reals, okay? And food allergies and broken bones, okay? So if your baby needs it, they need it. Better be a damn good reason that they're going to need an armband at camp for Infinity and an EpiPen. If you're just trying to get your kid to sleep better, don't do it. That's what I'm telling you. Yes? Yeah, tongue tie. I don't want you to clip babies' tongues to make them sleep better. I work in an office that's internationally known for tongue tie. I'm all about tongue tie. I love treating it. I love killing it. I love getting rid of it. But if the single motivation for you is that they have less gas and reflux and sleep better, check it at the door. Check it at the door. Because the background rate of reflux and of gas and of bad sleep is close to 100%. They don't all get better by clipping the little piece, good Lord. If aerophagia, if your baby is coming off and on the breast 100 times and swallowing a ridiculous amount of air, the reflux will get better. But I don't know that you're going to get rid of it completely. It's certainly not going to make them be a better sleeper. Now, if we're talking about the shape of their airway when they're an adult and, oh my goodness, like maybe, I like treating tongues in the moment for a reason that's present in the moment where the risk is outweighed by the benefit. When I'm the one doing kind of the I don't do the consults for the tongue-tied agave. I just, like my own patients, obviously, I put through the process. And so I'll be like, well, it's here, I see it. We have to think about why we would intervene. You think that they're going to sleep better doing every 4 hours wound care for 6 weeks? Okay, so I'm just saying I'm all about treating tongue tie. There's very few people who understand it and love it more than I do. But I really dislike when the reason it's being done is something that is, the background rate is almost 100% of babies. And we lose credibility. I'm going to tell you big time, you lose credibility when you try to tell someone that you want a referral to try and make the baby's gas better. Like, really? That's not really what you want. You want faster nursing, pain-free nursing. You want a baby that isn't on the breast 24 hours a day. Like there's there's medical reasons to do it. But if the only motivation is reflux and sleep and gas, then we have a problem. Breast storage capacity. So how much milk you can hold before your supply goes down. If you force a baby to not wake up at night and to sleep longer, your milk supply is going to go down. If the baby dictates it, then your milk supply is not going to go down. It's that simple. If the kid dictates it, you have the storage capacity for a baby to have good sleep. I hate you already. Don't brag about it. You'll be punished. Like sleep karma will get you somewhere, right? That is a guaranteed way to get your kid to not sleep through the night is to post about it. And then a week later, it all switches. This my daughter agrees with too. Bedtime's the leading cause of dehydration. So your sleep team, I want you to take as much time as you can to prop yourself up during the day. So what I see is hypervigilance during the day and then complete exhaustion at night. And when people are actually around to help, people say no. They want to either prove their competency as a parent or they just enjoy being a daytime parent and they don't like being the nighttime parent. I see that phrase. I love that phrase. Instead of calling it sleep problems or sleeping at night, it's called nighttime parenting. Oh, I like that. It makes the clock be a circle and the family be on shifts. Daytime parenting, nighttime parenting. It sort of helps you dole out the work amongst the people in your clan. I'm going to do the nighttime parenting. You know it's not just about the feeding. It's about the routine, the smell, the contact, right? Accepting help. I do want you to think about serious life and death risks. I don't want you to think about toxic stress. Do you see where I want your energy? I want your energy on things that are life and death and really important. And whether you're going to fall asleep at the wheel the next day driving is really important. Really important, okay? 5 minutes, oh dear. When can we see the baby? 4 a.m. Super helpful. Here's my gate code. So love languages for a sleep team. I know you know these 5 love languages. I think this is all I'm going to be able to get in. This is, I think, the most important part on both ends. There's going to be a primary nighttime parenting person. Usually there is. There's a primary, and then there's a secondary, right? And so no matter who it is, male, female, whatever the labels are, there's a primary and a secondary. And both of you need to use these love languages to communicate with each other. You have to know that other person's love language. Do they need to hear words? Thank you. Thank you for changing the diaper, even though you want to roll your eyes about that. Thank you for changing one diaper in the last 24 hours. Right? Like, don't do it like that. Scheduling adult alone time. And you don't need a 3-day trip to Mexico. I mean, just like go on a walk and let your neighbor watch the kids for a second. Okay? Look for wasted time windows that you're scrolling and checking, and you're reading books about sleep, and you're reading books about scheduling your baby and all that. Stop doing that and go have dinner with your partner. Okay? Go get your nails done. Acts of service, bringing water, having a neck pillow ready, making the bed in the morning, cleaning pump parts, OMG. Chore play. Have you seen that I didn't make that up. That was on like a TV commercial, chore play. Okay. Distracting the other older children, taking them to the park. Physical touch. These are literally what I mean. These are not code words for anything else. Neck rub, back rub. I can't even say it. Morning hug, brushing hair. Oh, have you ever had someone important to you brush your hair? It's so sweet. I'm going to cry. It just feels so good to be cared for. When you're the one caring and giving and giving and giving and giving, and when you can visibly see your partner caring for you, like they did when you were the princess who was pregnant, like, let's pretend, right? It feels so good. Okay, so then it helps you kind of make it through the night. You can do it if you know that you're going to have some affirmation of that. This is awesome. Now we've done drugs. We have cussed, and now we're doing drugs. This is great. I'm the best pediatrician. So I need something that's more than coffee but less than cocaine. That is awesome. It's not your kid's Adderall. It is not. Do not do that. Listening versus fixing. So I'm not going to say genders here. I'm just going to say personalities. Sometimes you just need to vent. You really don't want the other person to fix it. But they don't know that unless you say that. So start your sentences with good verbs. We have to fix versus I need to vent. I need a hug. I had a hard night. Don't fix it. I said I need a hug. Be direct. Don't be indirect. It's like everyone's tired. No one can read through your complicated passive-aggressive behavior. Say what you want. Can you make me coffee? Okay, can you plug my curling iron in and my pump parts? Can you wash my pump parts? When our kid sleeps through the night and my husband and I try to figure out what we did differently. And then take advantage of the fact, this is straight up mother. This is hard, and when there's 2 moms, even when there's 2 moms, usually there's a division of labor there that makes sense in that couple. So I am actually using that word directly, that usually there are completely different behaviors for sleep for the 2 partners. Okay? Let's take advantage of that. Don't get your feelings hurt. It is insulting. Why is the bad behavior with me? Why? I get the good behavior. But no, that's not how it works. They have one set of rules for you and a completely other set of rules for someone else. Take advantage of that. Okay, don't try and be that other person. Leave the house. Let them do their thing. Don't ask them how it went. Don't check on them. Trust them. Trust your partner. Show them that you're in it together. Hey, not you, the one with the breasts. And every phase ends. This is my ex-husband's. This is his. For every phase ends, for better or for worse. Like, you just get in a pattern, you just figure things out, and then it changes. All the carrots and sticks that you work it whatever a year, don't work it 18 months, and you call them regressions. I don't know what you want to call them, but basically the game is up. They know, and they're onto it, and they're moving on to the next thing. And so you, as a partnership, have to figure out what the new carrots and sticks are. So when you get in a good phase, it's going to end too. Cut teeth, go on a vacation, get a cold, okay? Be patient with your baby, with yourself, and you'll both learn and grow. This one's good. I'm basically never going to sleep again. And then, do you know how many copies? There should be a rating. There should be a rating warning on this talk, but when this gets published, right at the start. Anyone over the age of 3 should leave the room. 1.2 million copies of this book have been sold. Number 1 on the bestseller list. Why have I never talked about sleep before? Like, you people paid to come here today. I'm going to talk about sleep more. Who knew? Well, you just want to hear from more people, more sources. Humor's good, but also I hope that you are leaving with some practical strategies. I'm going to go back to that love language page, because these to me are active things you can leave this 1-hour session with to support each other without changing your baby's sleep at all, actually, right? Like, have I actually helped your kids sleep better at the end of this talk? I don't think I have. I haven't, because the definition of that is so unique for each one of you. To try to give some grand advice that would help everyone's child would help no one. It would help no one, right? So it's more about knowing your child, knowing your family, knowing where your danger, safety, risk areas are, the life and death stuff, and the rest of it is support and survival, and changing the cultural norm away from this, baby doesn't need their family, baby doesn't need the parents, and every kid should sleep through the night. Okay, thank you very much.